the Timberwolves president of basketball operations, David Kahn. Who is he?
Tell us exactly about this European Blake Griffin.
I don't know. I think Blake Griffin and some American numbers.
The Charlotte Hornets select Kobe Bryant.
The Milwaukee Bucks select Dirk Nowitzki from Würzburg, Germany.
I'm Ricky Rubio. I'm not like anybody else, but
It ain't the end of the world. We're going to see each other again. I mean, I'll send him some flowers or some fruit.
All right, and on the line we have Kyle Fogg, former University of Arizona guard. I spent 4 years over at University of Arizona, and I was lucky enough to cover him the last 2 years. So he's vying for the NBA draft, trying to make a name for himself in some workouts and get ready. How's everything going tonight for you, Kyle?
It's going well. How's everything going with you?
Doing pretty good out here. I definitely appreciate the time. I know you guys this time of year are very busy, obviously doing the workouts and getting yourself ready for the draft. So I just thought, let's just go ahead and talk about that a little bit. What have you been doing since it was Portsmouth that you went to and did that tournament out there? What have you been doing since that tournament?
After that I went back to school and, finished that up and, kind of worked out with my players and coaches while I was there. And, after school finally ended, my schedule kind of opened up and I had the Nets Combine. And, I played well at that and, got a few workouts. And, so far this summer I went out to New York and I was able to train with the person who recruited me at University of Arizona. His name's, Coach Mike Dunlap. And me and him have a pretty close relationship. So, he put me through a lot of tough workouts to really get me ready for these NBA workouts.
Yeah, and I know Portsmouth was kind of a mixed bag for you. You had some pretty awesome rebounding and defensive performances, but the shot wasn't falling a little bit. How did the New Jersey workout go for you? You said that one was a little bit better than Portsmouth.
Yeah, definitely, was able to, make more shots at the Nets Combine. I think, I was taking some pretty good shots I normally make at Portsmouth, but, they just weren't falling like you said. But, the Nets Combine, went a lot better offensively, and I think a few teams kind of, liked the way I played, and that's how I got a few workouts.
And it's a little bit different when you're working out in front of GMs and scouts sitting in folding chairs than it is, maybe playing in front of like 8,000 or 9,000 people in a college basketball game. Do you think like nerves are kind of creeping up? How have you been dealing with the nerves of playing in front of, the GM of the Knicks and playing in front of these big-time scouts that are making decisions?
It's definitely kind of, you kind of have some nerve, like you said, but, once you get out there and you start playing, you kind of don't even think about it. It's just, you're playing the game you love, and it's not really till after, when you kind of look around and you're like, geez, the head coach is here, all these scouts are kind of looking at you play. But, luckily I've been fortunate enough to kind of not really think about that until, after I got done playing and working out.
Yeah, and with you, specifically with your career at Arizona, it was kind of a crazy one where you were asked to do a lot of different things each year. Coming into every year, I think Coach Sean Miller gave you a different role. I know before this season he was asking you to score a little bit more, maybe facilitate a little bit more as well. When you're going into these workouts, the biggest thing is to play your game. What have you been trying to show these teams during your workouts that, what Kyle Fogg can do? What have you been showing them?
Basically, just kind of the main thing is showing these teams that, I can have the ability to run the point guard. I think, a lot of teams kind of doubt, just from playing shooting guard at Arizona, they kind of doubt me that I can't really, handle it well or really, kind of run a team. And, I know I can do it, and it's something I've been really working on, and I think I can go out there and show these teams that I can do that.
So in your time at Arizona, I want to talk about that a little bit, because like I said, I covered you for a couple of years out here, and you went from, defensive specialist, not taking a lot of shots during your guys' run to the Elite Eight, to probably being the most complete and, most important player of the team last year. What did those 4 years of kind of shuffling around your role and having you do different things each year, what do you think that did for you as a prospect coming forward into the NBA now?
I think it was kind of, great for me just as a person and, as a player, just because, I've gone through, a lot. And, like you said, being able to play, those different types of roles, I think, I can fit well in, any system or any team because, you know, if I need to be that guy who, you know, just plays defense and doesn't take many shots, you know, I've done that before. And if I need to be a guy who, you know, shoots threes and then scores, you know, I've also been in that role. So I think, you know, just kind of the versatility of my game and being able to really adapt to, you know, whatever the coach needs me to do, I think, you know, that's one of the biggest things I got from, you know, playing at University of Arizona.
What was Sean Miller's role in your development? What were some of the biggest things that you took away from not only just his coaching and teaching, but what he did for you as a player over the last couple of years?
Coach Miller's great. He's great, you know, on and off the court. I think, you know, as a player, he really pushed me to, you know, to be the best I can be. I mean, you know, always challenging me every day, you know, making sure I don't take any days off, and, you know, kind of just teaching me that, you know, you got to go out there and play hard. And sometimes, you know, you might be thinking you're playing hard, but, you know, there's always that next gear that you can really put it into. And, you know, I think, you know, coming out, I think I just know what it's going to take, you know, hard work-wise to kind of make it.
Yeah, and then the hard work is definitely going to be something that, you know, we need to do to make sure you get into those conversations for the draft. It's a little bit tougher when you're not that, you know, that number one pick or that top 10 locked guy. You got to put in a little bit more work than those guys, obviously. For the people that didn't see Arizona basketball like I got to, you know, every single year, every single game, what are some of the misconceptions of your game? What are some things that you know you can do on the court that maybe you don't get enough credit for outside of the point guard skills you talked about?
Yeah, just, you know, mainly just that point guard skill. But other than that, I think, you know, teams are kind of maybe sleeping on my ability to really score and, you know, kind of create shots for myself. You know, I was able to, you know, toward the second half of the season, you know, I think I averaged, you know, around 16, 17 a game, you know, so that last half of the season. I think, you know, some teams may think, you know, I can't really score the ball on my own. And, you know, I believe that's, you know, something I can actually do. And, you know, that's the next level.
Yeah, and another thing that you did pretty well there, your senior season, and I mean, it had to be like the last 10 to 12 games of the year. You were pretty dominant at it, was rebounding. Is that something that was just because rebounding is not a skill, it's a will thing. Was that something your coach kind of challenged you to do, or is that something you tried to step up and do on your own?
Yeah, coach definitely kind of, you know, told us that we really need to answer the bell at a rebound, you know, if we want to win games. And, you know, I'm not sure what game it was, but, you know, I pulled down 7 rebounds, and I kind of looked at the stats, and I was like, you know, that wasn't, you know, hard. I think I can get more. And, you know, but as you said, it's a lot about kind of will. And, you know, I was kind of, you know, blessed with you know, a great wingspan and kind of a knack for rebounding. So I just really started crashing the glass every time. And, you know, I was able to come down with a few double-doubles, and it was something my team needed. So I kind of try to, you know, do what I needed to do to help my team get the win.
And this season was a little bit different than the season prior. Obviously, the season prior, you guys, you know, all the way to the Elite Eight, pretty thrilling run. You guys lose a few key pieces, and then you guys come in this year with a lot of young guns that are going to develop and play nicely maybe down the road. What was your role on this team from a leadership standpoint with all the young guys and with losing a lot of the stuff? I mean, Derek Williams obviously took away, you know, 20 points and 10 rebounds. What was your role coming into the season?
Yeah, I think, you know, my role was just being better, you know, all around. I mean, you know, as well as building on my defense, but also becoming a better offensive player and really just being a leader and, you know, helping these young guys kind of, you know, get through the season. I mean, you know, it's hard to go out there and kind of have to depend on freshmen because, you know, it's a totally different ballgame in college. But, you know, it's kind of my job to just try to help them out as much as I can and, you know, just explain to them that you're going to have ups and your downs. But, you know, I think those guys did a great job, and they're only going to get better from here.
Yeah, and like I said, they're the group that came in this year and the group that came in, you know, that's coming in this coming year, just a lot of young talent. I mean, it almost like you missed the boat there. You played your 4 years, but a lot of the talent's coming in here for the next couple of years for Arizona basketball, and it's going to keep running. With your game, like I said, you know, a lot of people that didn't get a chance to see Arizona basketball and didn't get to see you in the tournament because you guys didn't, you know, make that at the very end of the year. With your game, was there someone specifically when you were coming up that you were patterning your game off of, or someone maybe you would compare your game to at the NBA level?
Oh, yeah, there's definitely guys, you know, kind of, you know, just kind of like a Bruce Bowen guy, really can spread the floor and guard positions, you know, 1 through 3. And, you know, offensively, you know, I try to, you know, kind of be a spark, kind of like a Jason Terry off the bench, you know, to really score in multiple ways and really shoot the ball. But, you know, mainly I hang my hat on the defensive end and, you know, kind of like a guy on, you know, Avery on the Celtics. So, just those two guys are kind of the guys that I'm really, thinking about how I can play and kind of model my game after.
Yeah, and those are really good players to look at. Especially, I would say Avery Bradley is an interesting name that you brought up there. A guy who came in highly touted, didn't have a great year, but still went out to the draft, and took him a year or two, but really came into his game before he got hurt there. I know you guys are real busy out there. I know working out and getting ready. I know you got to work out tomorrow that you got to get ready for and everything. But I just want to leave you with one last question is, draft is coming up on the 28th, about 10, 11 days or so from today. What are the plans for the draft? Are you going to go buy a ticket and crash the party, or are you going to end up just hanging out with family and friends?
I'll just be, going back home, hanging out with family and friends, and, just hoping for the best.
All right. Well, again, this is Kyle Fogg, former University of Arizona guard, vying for the NBA draft and looking to hear his name called on June 28th. Thanks for the time, Kyle.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
But I also felt very strongly that once the 14-year-old hit the dais with us, we were dead. We were just dead. There was no way. This league has a habit, I'm just going to say habit, of producing some pretty incredible storylines.